For a long time, humanity has lived under the comforting belief that we are the first and only intelligent beings to ever walk the earth. We see ourselves as the peak of evolution, builders of vast cities, inventors of groundbreaking technology, and explorers reaching far beyond our atmosphere. But what if this story, the one we've been telling ourselves, isn't entirely true? What if, long before us, Earth was home to another advanced civilization, intelligent, powerful, and now completely vanished? A civilization that may have risen and fallen eons ago, its legacy buried beneath miles of rock, sand, and sediment. A people whose cities turned to dust, whose machines decayed into strange artifacts we don't yet understand. Could it be possible that Earth, silent and patient, has hidden their story from us? Imagine the immense span of time our planet has existed, over 4.5 billion years. In contrast, modern humans have been around for merely 200,000 years, and human civilization as we know it is only a few thousand years old. That leaves an enormous window of time, millions upon millions of years, when anything could have happened, and no record would survive. Could an intelligent species have thrived in one of those forgotten eras? Let's take a moment to think about deep time. Fossils from ancient creatures can survive for hundreds of millions of years. But delicate signs of civilization, metal, plastics, or electronics, are far more fragile. After only a few thousand years, most man-made structures would crumble into dust. Cities would be reclaimed by nature. Satellites would fall from the sky. In a million years, all physical signs of our modern world could vanish completely. Now, let's consider something truly provocative. Is there any evidence, chemical, geological, or otherwise, that hints at the presence of an ancient industrial civilization before us? Some scientists have begun to explore this very question. It's known as the Silurian Hypothesis, named after a fictional reptilian species from the British sci-fi series Doctor Who. The idea proposes that if a previous civilization had existed millions of years ago, how would we detect it? What traces could possibly remain? One intriguing line of inquiry involves geochemical signatures. For instance, burning fossil fuels releases carbon isotopes in very specific patterns. If we found layers of rock showing a spike in certain isotopes, similar to what our own industrial age is creating, it could raise serious questions. Another clue might lie in sediment layers. Industrial waste, plastics, rare earth metals, and artificial compounds could potentially fossilize under the right conditions. Millions of years from now, a curious alien archaeologist might find a slice of Earth's crust that tells the story of our modern age. Could the same have already happened, long before us? Volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, erosion, and the endless shifting of tectonic plates act like the Earth's memory wipe. Over deep time, even the most impressive monuments could be destroyed or buried. Unless a past civilization left behind clues in exceptionally durable ways, like carvings deep inside protected caves or odd objects embedded in ancient rock, we might never find them. Some researchers point to unusual out-of-place artifacts, mysterious metal spheres, ancient maps with inexplicable accuracy, or legends of great floods and lost cities as possible hints. But skepticism remains strong. Most mainstream scientists argue that there's no credible evidence of a high-tech civilization before humans. Yet others believe we may be looking in the wrong places, or perhaps interpreting the data with blinders on. And so, we must ask, are we truly the first, or just the most recent, in a long and mysterious cycle? The idea of a lost advanced species challenges not only science but philosophy. It forces us to rethink our place in history. It reminds us that knowledge can be lost, that civilizations can fall, and that we, too, are not immune to time's erasure. As we explore Earth's deepest layers and peer further into the past, We may someday uncover more than just dinosaur bones and ancient forests. We may discover the remnants of a forgotten world, and with it, a mirror of what could happen to us. Stay with us as we dive deeper into this mystery, examining the evidence, the theories, and the possibilities. Because on Infinity Beyond, we believe the universe, and our own planet, still holds many secrets. If there was a truly ancient civilization buried in the sands of time, the traces it left behind would either look dramatically different from our modern world or be almost entirely erased. But what would it actually take to preserve proof of such a civilization? And what kinds of evidence might still be hiding in plain sight? To answer that, let's first think about how fragile our own civilization really is. Skyscrapers made of steel and glass might look eternal to us, but in geological terms, they're nothing more than temporary spikes. In a few thousand years, weather, plant overgrowth, and erosion would reduce even our most durable constructions to rubble. In tens of thousands of years, even reinforced concrete would crumble. In a million years, our world would be unrecognizable. So if a pre-human civilization did exist tens or hundreds of millions of years ago and had technology, factories, or cities, what would remain of them now? One idea is that we could find anomalous fossilization, strange layers of rock containing synthetic materials, metals that don't naturally occur together, or isotopic ratios that can't be explained by known natural processes. For example, plastics, although fragile in open air, can persist in certain deep marine environments. Could there be layers of ancient plastic, now turned to rock, waiting to be discovered? Even more compelling is the notion of strange chemical fingerprints in Earth's geologic record. Our industrial civilization produces unique pollutants, certain PCBs, synthetic fertilizers, and long-lasting chemicals. These might not fully degrade and could end up preserved in sediment layers, like the pages of a planetary diary. If scientists in the future were to dig deep enough, they might find the anthropos layer, a thin geological slice marked by human activity. Now flip that idea on its head. What if someone, or something, before us left their own chemical fingerprint? Would we notice it, or would we mistake it for a natural anomaly? There have already been puzzling discoveries. Take the so-called nuclear reactors of Oklo in Gabon, Africa. These are natural formations where nuclear fission occurred spontaneously around 2 billion years ago. But the phenomenon is so unusual that it has sparked fringe theories about intelligent intervention. Mainstream science attributes it to unique geological conditions. Still, it shows that strange things can and do happen deep in the Earth's past, and they may look disturbingly artificial. Then there are enigmatic artifacts, metallic spheres with etched grooves found in 3-billion-year-old rock formations in South Africa. Or advanced-looking items like the Antikythera mechanism, a 2,000-year-old analog computer far ahead of its time. While the mechanism fits within human history, it opens our minds to the possibility that ancient people may have possessed knowledge far more advanced than we typically assume. Now imagine a civilization that existed 60 million years ago, around the time mammals first began to diversify. If they had technology, would any of it survive today? Very little. Geological processes would destroy almost all evidence, and any fossilized remains, tools, machines, or buildings would likely be misinterpreted as natural anomalies or simply lost in the vastness of Earth's shifting crust. This leads us to a fascinating irony. The more advanced and eco-conscious a civilization is, the less likely it is to leave behind evidence. A civilization using clean energy, recycling its materials, and minimizing environmental disruption might leave barely a trace. In contrast, one like ours, dependent on fossil fuels and heavy industry, leaves scars in the geological record. It's a chilling thought. If we vanish tomorrow, Future species might eventually detect the remnants of our plastic, carbon dioxide spikes, or radioactive isotopes. But a more intelligent, sustainable civilization? It could come and go, and no one would ever know. So how can we differentiate between natural geologic activity and the subtle traces of an ancient civilization? This is the heart of the Silurian Hypothesis, a call for scientists to scrutinize deep time for clues, to analyze anomalies in the rock record not as errors or coincidences, but as potential signals. The search isn't easy. It requires cross-disciplinary work. Chemists, geologists, paleontologists, and even astronomers working together. It means questioning our assumptions about what's natural and being open to the idea that we might not be the first. And it also means recognizing the bias of the present, our tendency to think of ourselves as the center of history. We assume we're special, that intelligence only just arrived. But the Earth doesn't think in centuries. It operates on billion-year timelines. Civilizations could have risen and fallen countless times, and we might never know unless we look harder. Could the fossil record contain more than just bones and shells? Could it be hiding blueprints of a forgotten past? As we dig deeper, we may uncover clues that shatter our understanding of Earth's history and force us to accept a far more ancient lineage of intelligence. Join us in the next segment as we explore the possible myths, legends, and cultural echoes that may hold hidden truths about these forgotten worlds. Because here on Infinity Beyond, we believe every layer of rock may be hiding a chapter of a much greater story. Imagine walking through a desert or standing on the edge of a canyon. You look down at the exposed walls of Earth, and what you see isn't just rock. It's time itself, stacked like the pages of a book. Each layer represents an era, a story, a forgotten world. Some are marked by the sudden end of life, a mass extinction. Others show a quiet, gradual change. But once in a while, you stumble upon something odd, a layer that doesn't quite belong. A sediment layer that seems artificial, too rich in certain metals, too uniform, or containing particles that nature doesn't normally produce. What if these anomalies are more than quirks of geology? What if they're messages from a civilization that time forgot? Let's dive into what we call technofossils, evidence of technology preserved in the geologic record. These aren't the fossils of living organisms, but rather traces of industrial processes, synthetic polymers, rare alloys, radioactive isotopes, or even nanomaterials. In our own time, humanity is producing an incredible amount of such material. Future geologists, whether human or alien, will easily detect our presence in the Earth's crust. Now imagine a past civilization, millions of years ago, doing the same. Perhaps they harnessed geothermal power or mastered nuclear energy. Maybe they built machines that left behind microscopic waste products now trapped in shale, or glassy residues formed by extreme heat. What some speculate could be the remnants of ancient power generation. In fact, some scientists have discovered melted mineral deposits fused together in ways that mimic industrial slag, waste from metal smelting. While these findings are often dismissed as volcanic or meteoric in origin, they raise a fascinating question. How do we tell nature from technology when the evidence is ancient and eroded? The Earth is not a passive observer. It's an active recycler. Mountains rise, oceans fall, continents drift. Over time, nearly all surface features are erased, distorted, or buried. If a civilization flourished during the Jurassic or Cretaceous periods, we would be lucky to find even a single unmistakable artifact. That's why context is crucial. A strange material by itself might not mean much, but if it appears alongside other signs, like isotopic anomalies, sudden climate shifts, or unusual biological activity, it might suggest a more complex story. Think of it like an archaeological crime scene. One clue can be a coincidence, but multiple clues, that's a pattern. Some of the oddities we find include microspherules, tiny glassy balls often linked to high-temperature events. While they can be caused by asteroid impacts or volcanic eruptions, some clusters appear in patterns inconsistent with known natural causes. Unusual magnetic signatures. Certain rock layers show strange magnetization, as though they had been exposed to intense electromagnetic fields. Could this be the leftover trace of ancient technology? Carbon isotope spikes. Massive disruptions in the carbon cycle, possibly indicating large-scale combustion or industrial activity. These findings may seem speculative, but they open the door to a larger question. What if we've already found evidence, but we didn't recognize it as such? The challenge is, most scientists are trained to see the world through the lens of natural processes. When something strange appears in the record, the first instinct is to look for a geological explanation. This is reasonable, but it may also blind us to rare possibilities. Consider this. If a highly advanced civilization lived tens of millions of years ago, their ruins wouldn't look like ours. They might not have skyscrapers or satellites. Their technology could be biological or quantum-based. Their footprint might be entirely invisible to the naked eye, existing only as subtle disruptions in the chemistry of rocks or the fossil record of microbial life. Even stranger is the possibility that such a civilization might have left deliberately hidden messages, beacons buried deep underground or in stable orbit around the planet, waiting for the next intelligent species to find them. Some thinkers speculate that we should search not only the Earth, but also the Moon for evidence of ancient visitors, because the Moon lacks weather, tectonics, and erosion. But here on Earth, the evidence may be in plain sight. We just don't know how to read it yet. This idea isn't about conspiracy or fantasy. It's about science pushing its boundaries. The Silurian Hypothesis is a real thought experiment developed by scientists like Gavin Schmidt and Adam Frank. It asks us to explore the possibility of deep-time civilizations with the same rigor we apply to searching for alien life on other planets. Why do we look for technosignatures on Mars, Europa, or exoplanets, but hesitate to do the same beneath our own feet? At Infinity Beyond, we believe it's time to look inward, to re-examine the ancient layers of Earth, not just for the story of life, but for the possible stories of intelligence lost to time. Because the truth is, we may not be alone in the universe, and we may not have been the first to reach for the stars from Earth. As we dig deeper into Earth's ancient layers and uncover clues that defy explanation, we're faced with a recurring dilemma. How do we know what we're seeing is artificial? Could we make the mistake of thinking something natural is artificial? Or worse, dismiss something truly remarkable because we don't recognize its origin? The danger works both ways. Our minds are pattern-seeking machines. We might look at a strangely shaped rock and see a tool. Or we might overlook a real artifact because it doesn't match what we expect a tool to look like. This is the tightrope that scientists walk when confronting deep anomalies. But maybe, just maybe, the answers we seek have been hiding in stories, not stones. Around the world, cultures share strikingly similar myths, tales of golden ages, sudden catastrophes, and civilizations destroyed in a single day. Atlantis, Lemuria, Zep Tepi, the land of Mu. These names differ in geography and language, but the core themes remain. A once great civilization, advanced in knowledge and power, wiped out by natural cataclysm or divine punishment. To many, these stories are just that, myths. But what if they're cultural echoes, distorted memories passed down from a time so ancient it predates recorded history? Let's consider the story of Atlantis, described by Plato in 360 BCE. He claimed it was a technologically sophisticated society that vanished beneath the ocean in a single day and night of misfortune. Most historians dismiss it as allegory. But what if Plato was preserving a folk memory, an oral tradition from a lost epoch? In India, the Mahabharata tells of flying machines called vimanas, of weapons as powerful as the sun, and of cities destroyed in blinding flashes. Ancient astronaut theorists have long pointed to these texts as proof of prehistoric technology. But what if the real explanation lies somewhere in between? A once advanced culture whose deeds were mythologized after their fall. Even in the Americas, the Popol Vuh, a sacred text of the Maya, describes multiple creations and destructions of the world, as if humanity has been reset several times. Could these be metaphorical references to real cycles of rise and collapse? It's not just myths that suggest hidden history. Ancient structures challenge our understanding of what early humans were capable of. Consider Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, built over 11,000 years ago, before agriculture and metal tools were thought to exist. The pyramids of Egypt, aligned with celestial bodies and built with astonishing precision. The megalithic ruins of Puma Punku in Bolivia, featuring stonework so precise it would challenge modern equipment. While mainstream archaeology attributes these feats to ingenuity, teamwork, and centuries of labor, others ask whether these structures were built atop even older foundations, possibly by civilizations that predate recorded history altogether. Here's where it gets even more fascinating. If a prehistoric civilization did exist and fell, it would make sense that survivors might pass down fragments of their knowledge. This could explain sudden bursts of technological or astronomical insight in early cultures, like the Sumerians or the ancient Egyptians. Could early priesthoods or mystery schools have safeguarded ancient wisdom? Could the obsession with stars, geometry, and timekeeping in ancient architecture be the remnants of a once global knowledge system? This idea isn't new. It's the foundation of catastrophism, the belief that Earth has undergone cycles of destruction and rebirth, with each phase erasing almost everything before it. Whether through flood, fire, or cosmic impact, the slate is wiped clean, and intelligent life must begin again. If this is true, then Earth isn't just the cradle of one intelligent species, but the graveyard of several. Each time, civilization climbs, peaks, and falls. And each time, a few survivors whisper fragments of what came before. That whisper might be encoded in mythology, hidden in architecture, or even embedded in DNA. Yes, some scientists speculate that knowledge could be encoded in genetic sequences, an idea at the fringes of current science, but still within the realm of possibility. Imagine discovering that a protein structure holds not just biological instructions, but mathematical constants, or even messages. The more we open ourselves to this idea, the more compelling the evidence becomes. Not because it proves an ancient civilization existed, but because it challenges us to ask better questions. To see myths not only as fantasies, but as data. To look at anomalous ruins not with skepticism, but with curiosity. What if we've been digging in the right places, but interpreting the evidence with the wrong framework? Here at Infinity Beyond, we're not claiming definitive answers. We're encouraging open minds, because science at its best is not about certainty. It's about exploring the unknown with courage and imagination. And so we leave you with a thought. The greatest mystery may not be what lies beyond the stars, but what lies beneath our feet. In the next segment, we'll dive into the growing efforts by researchers to apply modern technology, LiDAR scanning, satellite imagery, deep ocean sonar to uncover the Earth's hidden past. Because if secrets remain, technology might finally be the tool that reveals them. Stay with us. In our quest to uncover lost chapters of Earth's history, myths and geological clues can only take us so far. To truly unlock the secrets buried beneath our feet, we must turn to the tools of the modern age. technologies that can peer through jungles, beneath deserts, and into the very bones of our planet. Welcome to the era of high-tech archaeology. For centuries, excavation was the gold standard of discovery. But today, satellite imaging, LiDAR scanning, ground-penetrating radar, and isotope analysis are reshaping how we understand ancient Earth. These tools are capable of detecting structures that the eye, and even conventional excavation, would miss entirely. Let's start with LiDAR, or light detection and ranging. This laser-based scanning system can map the ground in astonishing detail, even beneath dense forest canopies. It's already rewritten history in parts of Central America, revealing massive ancient cities and road networks hidden beneath the trees. Entire civilizations that were previously unknown. What else might LiDAR discover? Some researchers are now using it in the Amazon, the Congo, and other remote areas, searching not just for lost human civilizations, but for geometric anomalies, patterns in the landscape that defy natural formation. Could these be the remnants of something older than we've dared to consider? Then there's deep ocean sonar, a technology that allows us to map the seafloor. Vast portions of Earth's oceans remain unexplored. Over 80% beneath the waves we've found strange geometric formations, ridges, and what some interpret as terraces or ancient breakwaters. While most of these can be explained geologically, a few remain unexplained. One of the most controversial examples is the Yonaguni Monument off the coast of Japan. This massive stone formation bears what appear to be steps, platforms, and right angles, features uncommon in natural formations. Some geologists insist it's a quirk of tectonic activity. Others argue it's the sunken ruin of an ancient city, lost when sea levels rose at the end of the last ice age. But suppose it's both. What if ancient peoples built atop natural formations? What if the origins go even deeper, to a civilization wiped out long before the ice age ended? This brings us to another powerful tool: isotope dating, especially uranium-lead dating. This method allows scientists to determine the age of rocks and materials with extreme precision. It's been used to date the oldest materials on Earth, some over 4 billion years old. Imagine applying that kind of precision to a strange artifact or mineral anomaly found in a place it doesn't belong. If the age doesn't match the surrounding sediment, it could suggest displacement or something far more mysterious. The problem, however, isn't always in the data. Sometimes it's in the interpretation. Anomalous readings are often dismissed as errors, outliers, or contamination. But what if they aren't? What if they're evidence of technology or activity out of time? To spot such patterns, some researchers use AI and machine learning to scan enormous data sets, satellite images, magnetic anomaly maps, or seismic data. The AI isn't burdened with assumptions. It simply looks for patterns. Some of the findings have been surprising: repeating geometric structures, rectilinear outlines beneath the surface, or magnetic signatures consistent with metal masses, in places no modern construction has ever occurred. Skeptics argue these are coincidences. But in science, patterns demand investigation, especially when they repeat. Even our understanding of ancient artifacts has changed with technology. Spectroscopy, electron microscopy, and 3D scanning allow us to analyze tools, bones, and carvings at the molecular level. Microscopic tool marks, residue of synthetic chemicals, or even isotopic ratios in carvings could reveal far more than previously imagined. Take the example of ooparts, out-of-place artifacts. From the Antikythera mechanism to strange metal spheres found in ancient strata, these objects defy conventional timelines. Most are explained as misidentifications, but a few remain genuinely puzzling, especially when their composition or design suggests advanced understanding of geometry, astronomy, or metallurgy. Could these be the remnants of a lost civilization? Or contact with one? Even if we've never found a complete ancient machine, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Over millions of years, nearly all structures would be destroyed, recycled by Earth itself. What we might find are only fingerprints on the stone, scars in the strata, and yet, it may be enough. As more data pours in, some scientists call for a new field of study, paleoarchaeotechnology, the investigation of deep-time technological signatures, combining geology, chemistry, archaeology, and artificial intelligence. The goal isn't to rewrite history with fantasy, but to test hypotheses once thought unthinkable. This is what the Silurian Hypothesis proposes. Not that another species built the internet millions of years ago, but that if one had, we might not even know unless we look in just the right way. The question is no longer, did it happen? But would we even know if it had? On Infinity Beyond, we believe the future of archaeology lies not in digging deeper, but in thinking deeper. It's about recognizing that the Earth may be holding on to secrets, not because it wants to, but because we haven't yet learned how to read its language. In the next segment, we'll explore the ethical and philosophical implications of discovering a lost intelligent species. What would it mean for our identity, our future, and our place in the cosmos? Stay tuned, because the past might just be the key to understanding what lies beyond. What if one day, while scanning the ocean floor or analyzing an ancient layer of rock, we finally find it? A clue, a signal, a piece of evidence that is unmistakable, not shaped by nature, but crafted by intelligence. Not by us, but by someone or something long before. What would it mean if Earth once hosted another intelligent civilization? At first, the implications would ripple through science. Our understanding of history, archaeology, and evolution would be overturned. New disciplines would form. Old ones would fracture. The textbooks rewritten. The questions would multiply. Who were they? Where did they go? Did they destroy themselves? Did something else end them? Or did they leave? But beyond the data and the debate, something far deeper would awaken. A shift in how we see ourselves. We've long believed that human intelligence is the pinnacle of evolution, unique, miraculous, and unmatched. That belief has shaped our religions, our sciences, even our dreams. But if we are not the first, then we are part of a pattern, not a singularity. And patterns have rules. So what is the rule? That intelligent life rises and falls? That progress leads not to utopia, but to collapse? That the universe is littered with civilizations who rise from dust and return to it before ever reaching the stars? Or could the opposite be true, that intelligence is resilient, that knowledge survives collapse, and that even in ruin, the seeds of wisdom endure? These are not just philosophical musings, they're questions that matter now, perhaps more than ever, because the same forces that may have ended a prior civilization, climate change, resource depletion, conflict, arrogance, are the very ones we face today. If we could confirm that someone came before us and fell, would it serve as a warning or as hope? A warning that we too are fragile, that the earth forgets easily, that time buries everything, but also a hope that life, even intelligent life, can rise again, that the universe allows for second chances. Some thinkers believe that discovering a prior civilization would decenter humanity, breaking the illusion of our cosmic uniqueness. But others argue it would be a gift, proof that intelligence is not rare, that consciousness is not confined to one species or era, that we are not a fluke but a thread in a much longer tapestry. It could even change how we approach space exploration. Currently, we look outward for signs of alien life, on Mars, Europa, Titan, or in the atmospheres of distant exoplanets. But what if the first aliens we discover are not light years away, but buried beneath our feet? That would reframe everything. It would mean the universe has already experimented with intelligent life on Earth, and perhaps many times over. It would push us to reconsider the Fermi paradox, not as a question of where is everyone, but how long does anyone last? It would also open up a deeper spiritual and existential reflection. If civilizations come and go, what truly matters? Is it the technology they leave behind, the cities, the machines, or is it the wisdom they pass on, the stories encoded in myth, the warnings carved into stone? Maybe the greatest legacy is not what's built, but what's remembered. Not what survives physically, but what survives in meaning. And maybe, just maybe, we've already received their message. Not as a transmission, but as a pattern. A whisper woven through culture. A shape in the stars. A lesson buried in the very structure of Earth's history. If we found such a message, how would we respond? Would we listen? Would we understand? Or would we ignore it, as we have so many warnings before? At Infinity Beyond, we believe the answer lies not just in science, but in humility, in the willingness to see ourselves not as the climax of Earth's story, but as one chapter in a book still being written. The search for ancient civilizations isn't about fantasy, it's about perspective, about understanding that intelligence doesn't make us immune to extinction, and that survival requires more than knowledge. It requires wisdom. And perhaps, by seeking those who came before, we might become wiser ourselves. In the next segment, we'll turn our gaze upward once more, to ask whether our search for ancient civilizations on Earth could teach us how to recognize intelligence on other worlds, and avoid the same fate. Because the past isn't just behind us, it might be the key to our future. Stay curious, stay open, stay tuned. As our understanding of the universe grows, so does a difficult question. Would we even recognize intelligence if we saw it? Especially if it's not human, or not from now. We often assume that signs of intelligent life, on Earth or on distant planets, would be obvious. Machines, cities, radio signals, language. But what if intelligence leaves more subtle clues? Patterns in nature, structures in biology, or strange alignments in geology? Some researchers are beginning to look at ancient phenomena, both terrestrial and extraterrestrial, through a new lens. They're asking, do any of these things show signs of intentional design? Let's consider the possibility that certain features on Earth, megaliths, formations, or even large-scale geological structures, might reflect design, not chance. For decades, such claims were dismissed as pseudoscience. But now, as our tools improve, so does our ability to test the hypothesis scientifically. In nature, randomness has rules. Mountains erode in predictable ways. Rivers carve landscapes with fractal patterns. But sometimes we find geometry that defies expectation. Straight lines where none should exist. Perfect circles spanning kilometers. Massive stone blocks aligned with astronomical precision. Most of these features, of course, can be explained geologically. But some remain ambiguous, on the edge of probability. And it's in these gray areas that we must tread carefully. If a prehistoric civilization did exist, especially one using bio-integrated or Earth-adapted technology, their works might look natural to us. What if their energy systems were built into the crust? What if their communication tools used magnetism, sound, or water? Over time, their creations might erode into strange, unrecognizable shapes, half nature, half machine. Now extend that logic outward. On Mars, for example, we've seen the famous Face on Mars, a rock formation in the Cydonia region that, under certain lighting, resembles a human face. Early speculation suggested artificiality. Later, high-res images showed it to be a hill. Case closed? Perhaps, but perhaps not entirely. What if the problem isn't the image, but the expectation? We expect alien design to look like our design, symmetrical, metallic, digital. But real intelligence may be far more abstract, more integrated, more subtle. Imagine trying to detect a lost civilization that thought like a mathematician, not a builder, whose architecture was in the form of resonant frequencies, not walls, or one that encoded knowledge into magnetic fields rather than writing. In fact, some scientists now suggest that if we want to detect intelligence, on Earth or beyond, we should look for non-random anomalies in complex systems. Not buildings per se, but deviations in entropy, impossible alignments, or unexpected concentrations of energy. For example, the SETI Institute, searching for extraterrestrial intelligence, has begun analyzing technosignatures beyond radio signals. These include infrared heat emissions from Dyson spheres, atmospheric pollution from industrial civilizations, or narrowband light pulses from laser communication. It's a leap beyond the traditional hello from the stars and into the realm of detecting design without direct contact. This kind of thinking, pattern recognition beyond the obvious, could also help us on Earth. What if a previous civilization left its mark, not through artifacts, but through systems? Genetic systems, geological patterns, planetary cycles. There's even a fringe idea in astrobiology that life on Earth may have been seeded deliberately, an ancient form of panspermia. In this scenario, DNA itself might be the artifact. Its elegance, efficiency, and universality could reflect not just evolution, but intention. While highly speculative, this line of thinking reminds us that not all intelligence leaves behind stone temples or metal ships. Some may leave only ideas, embedded in biology, energy, or math. Here's where the philosophy turns practical. If we're truly looking for intelligence, past or present, we must expand our criteria. Stop assuming civilization equals skyscrapers. Stop equating technology with noise, and start asking better questions. Could a species have lived here in deep time and evolved to leave almost no trace? Could it have merged with nature, biotechnological, sustainable, and self-erasing? Could it have chosen to vanish, understanding that the greatest civilizations are those that don't just survive, but leave quietly? And if so, are we missing their fingerprints because we're blinded by our own reflection? As humans, we expect intelligence to mirror us, but nature rarely repeats. The intelligence that preceded us, or that waits in the stars, may look like nothing we've imagined. At Infinity Beyond, we believe the future of discovery depends not just on new telescopes or deeper digs, but on new ways of thinking, on humility, on pattern recognition, on a willingness to accept that what we once called natural might have been deliberately built. So next time we see a strange alignment in the sky, a perfect stone buried in a mountain, or a signal that makes no sense, let's not dismiss it. Let's wonder, because the real question isn't, is there life out there? It's, are we smart enough to recognize it when it doesn't look like us? In the next segment, we'll explore how the search for ancient intelligence here and beyond could shape the next chapter of human evolution and teach us how to last longer than those who may have come before. Stay tuned! If an advanced civilization once thrived on Earth millions of years ago, why haven't we found a single piece of definitive evidence? No machines, no writing, no monuments, just silence. The answer might not be absence, it might be obscuration. Over geological time, Earth doesn't just erase, it transforms. Rain, wind, heat, pressure. These are the sculptors of continents, but they're also the destroyers of memory. And when it comes to detecting the traces of ancient intelligence, they are nature's greatest conspirators. Even if a structure, say a building, a roadway, or a machine, somehow survived the chaos of eons, it would eventually be replaced by minerals, fused into rock, or dissolved completely. Organic materials decay, metals corrode, even plastics, though persistent, degrade under the right conditions. The very crust of the Earth is in constant motion, recycling itself over and over. That means a city built 100 million years ago would be long gone today, unless it were preserved under extraordinary circumstances, such as being buried in volcanic ash, frozen in permafrost, or submerged in deep ocean sediments shielded from tectonic activity. But even in these ideal scenarios, identifying artificiality isn't easy. A mineralized circuit board might resemble a fossilized shell. A collapsed dome might register as a natural cavern. Without context, without a clear pattern, we simply wouldn't know what we're looking at. This brings us to a brutal truth. Nature doesn't care what we build. Time doesn't remember us easily. And so, if a civilization did exist, an ancient culture with machines, power systems, perhaps even global communication, it could be completely erased, its achievements turned to dust, its story forgotten. Unless we're asking the wrong questions. Instead of looking for surviving objects, maybe we should be looking for surviving effects. What does that mean? Let's imagine this lost civilization altered the atmosphere, much like we're doing today. Or they changed the chemistry of the oceans. These changes would leave geochemical markers, shifts in isotope ratios, spikes in rare elements, layers of pollution embedded in ancient rock. And here's the kicker. We've found some. There are periods in Earth's history, like the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, where carbon levels spiked dramatically, ocean acidity increased, and extinction events followed. These are explained by natural causes, like volcanic activity or methane release. But what if, just what if, one of them wasn't natural? Of course, mainstream science doesn't support this idea, yet. But the Silurian Hypothesis, proposed by NASA's Gavin Schmidt and astrophysicist Adam Frank, opens the door. It asks, if an industrial civilization had existed before humans, what signs would it leave, and would we even be able to detect them? Their answer is sobering. Detection would be extremely difficult. Earth is not just dynamic, it's self-healing. Like a living organism, it absorbs trauma, covers scars, and renews. So unless we stumble upon a miracle, an intact artifact in undisturbed strata, or a message encoded in something impossibly durable, we may never know for sure. And maybe, that's the point. Some theorists suggest that an ancient civilization, aware of its own fragility, might have taken steps to erase itself or hide itself, not out of shame, but out of wisdom. Perhaps they understood the danger of their technology falling into the wrong hands. Or maybe they left behind only what they wanted to be found. Not tools, but teachings. That idea leads us to another possibility. What if the real artifacts are ideas? Perhaps some knowledge did survive, not in stone but in myth, symbol, or genetic memory. Perhaps the stories of Atlantis, the tales of floods, the obsession with celestial alignments are echoes, faint, distorted, but persistent. Or maybe what survived wasn't cultural at all. Maybe they left a legacy in biology. Could genetic code itself carry a message? Could the architecture of DNA or the structure of consciousness bear a watermark from minds far older than ours? We're in speculative territory, yes, but speculation has its place, especially when exploring the deep unknown. At Infinity Beyond, we don't claim certainty. We claim curiosity, because history is not a straight line, it's a spiral. Civilizations rise and fall, knowledge is gained and lost, and sometimes the answers lie not in what we know, but in what we forgot to look for. So where do we go from here? We expand the search. We revisit anomalies. We challenge assumptions. And we embrace the possibility that the greatest secrets of Earth are not out in space, but down below, fossilized in silence. In the next segment, we'll turn our attention to how this search reshapes our understanding of ourselves, not just as a species, but as a temporary civilization in a very ancient world. And we'll ask, can knowing what may have come before help us avoid the same fate? Because if we listen closely, the Earth might still be whispering, and the past may be trying to save us from our own future. Scattered across the globe are structures that defy explanation. From the high mountains of South America to the dense jungles of Southeast Asia, and deep into the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, there are ruins that challenge what we know about human history. Some of these structures are megalithic, composed of stones that is so massive that even with today's machines, moving them would be nearly impossible. Yet there they are, perfectly balanced, interlocked with precision, aligned with celestial bodies, and whispering stories from a time before time. Could these ruins be the fingerprints of a forgotten civilization? Let's begin with Pumapunku in Bolivia. This site, perched at nearly 13,000 feet above sea level, contains intricately carved stone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons. The cuts are so precise that they resemble modern machine work. The H-shaped stones fit together like giant Lego bricks, with internal grooves and right angles rarely seen in nature. Traditional archaeologists credit the Tiwanaku people, who thrived around 500 CE. But some researchers argue the site's core might be far older, built atop the remnants of a lost age. Could it be that Pumapunku wasn't just a ceremonial site, but a relay station, an energy hub, or even something more advanced? Move east, and we encounter Nan Madol, a mysterious city of basalt columns off the coast of Micronesia. Built on artificial islets, it's often called the Venice of the Pacific. But no one knows how the builders transported and stacked the hexagonal stones, some weighing over 50 tons. Local legends speak of magic and flying stones, a poetic metaphor, perhaps, for lost technology? Then there's Baalbek in Lebanon. At its core lies the Trilithon, 3 stones, each over 800 tons, forming part of a massive platform. Ancient Romans built upon this foundation, but they didn't create it. Who did? And more importantly, why? Many of these megalithic sites are located atop telluric nodes, spots where Earth's magnetic fields converge. This raises the possibility that ancient civilizations understood energy in ways we don't, perhaps using the Earth itself as a power grid. Skeptics argue that all of this can be explained. Clever engineering, lots of time, and massive manpower. But the question persists. Why such complexity, such scale, such precision, especially in an era supposedly lacking advanced tools? Now, let's consider alignment. Across the world, ancient structures are aligned with astonishing accuracy to the stars. The pyramids of Giza to Orion's belt, Stonehenge to the solstices, Angkor Wat to the constellation Draco. Why were our ancestors so obsessed with the skies? Were these merely religious monuments? Or did they serve as cosmic calendars, signal beacons, or even repositories of encoded knowledge? In India, ancient temples mimic the structure of DNA. In Cambodia, temples map the Draco constellation. In Mexico, the layout of Teotihuacan reflects the solar system, including a mysterious missing planet that some believe was once known to ancient astronomers. These alignments raise questions that modern science can't easily answer. Is this all coincidence, or are we looking at a network of ancient observatories connected not just by purpose, but by legacy? And if that's true, what legacy were they trying to leave? Perhaps it was this, that they existed, that they knew things we've forgotten, that the stars were not only to be worshipped, but watched, tracked, interpreted. Because maybe, just maybe, Something once came from those stars. Or perhaps they did. If an ancient civilization did rise and fall before us, it may have left behind messages in stone, messages we're only now beginning to decode. A universal language written not in letters, but in geometry, proportion, vibration, and light. And maybe, in these ruins, in these alignments, we are not seeing myth, but memory. Not legend, but legacy. At Infinity Beyond, we believe the question isn't whether these sites are real. They are. The question is, what story are they still trying to tell us? Are we finally ready to listen? In the next segment, we'll look at the most radical theory yet, that intelligent life on Earth did not begin here, but arrived here. Could we ourselves be the descendants, not of apes, but of astronauts? It's time to confront one of the boldest possibilities in human history. What if we've been asking the wrong question all along? What if the origin of intelligence on Earth isn't simply about what evolved, but what arrived? Modern science teaches us that humans are the product of evolution, shaped over millions of years by natural selection. It's a powerful and well-supported idea. But what if evolution had a little help? What if intelligence, our intelligence, was seeded here long ago by beings from somewhere else? This is the heart of one of the most controversial and fascinating theories in alternative science, panspermia, and its more radical cousin, directed panspermia. Panspermia suggests that life in its simplest form may have originated elsewhere in the universe and spread to Earth via comets, meteorites, or interstellar dust. Some scientists support this as a plausible explanation for how early microbial life took root here so quickly, almost as soon as the planet became habitable. But directed panspermia goes even further. It proposes that life was not simply scattered by chance, but deliberately sent. That some ancient intelligence, far older and more advanced than anything we can imagine, seeded Earth with the building blocks of life, or even encoded intelligence within our DNA itself. It's a concept that sounds like science fiction, but it's not without serious thinkers behind it. Even Nobel laureate Francis Crick, co-discoverer of the DNA double helix, once proposed that life on Earth might be the result of intelligent intervention. Now consider this. DNA is an incredibly complex, information-dense system. Some researchers have found mathematical patterns, redundant coding structures, and even symmetry within the genetic code that suggest a level of design. Could this be coincidence, or could it be a signature? Imagine if intelligence didn't begin on Earth, but visited Earth millions or even billions of years ago. Not in spacecraft, but in code, in information, in structure. If this is true, then humanity is not the first intelligent life on this planet. We are its continuation. But the mystery doesn't end there. Throughout history, civilizations have told stories of beings from the stars, gods who came from the sky, taught knowledge, built monuments, and then vanished. The Sumerians had the Anunnaki. The Egyptians spoke of Thoth and Osiris. The Dogon tribe of Mali describes beings from Sirius B, a star system they knew existed long before modern telescopes could confirm it. Are these just myths, or inherited memories of contact? Even ancient texts, from the Book of Enoch to Hindu scriptures, contain astonishing descriptions. Flying machines, beings of light, wars in the heavens. Modern interpretations often dismiss these as metaphor. But what if they're based on something real? Could a prior advanced species, whether terrestrial or extraterrestrial, have once interacted with early humans? Could they have accelerated our development, left behind knowledge, or even shaped our very consciousness? If so, where are they now? Maybe they left. Maybe they're watching. Or maybe they perished, just like the civilizations we study in stone. But perhaps they left something behind. Not a monument, not a spaceship, but a spark of curiosity. The drive to question, to explore, to look to the stars, not just for answers, but for home. And that spark has never gone out. It's in our DNA, in our myths, in our relentless desire to understand where we come from and where we're going. The Fermi paradox asks, if intelligent life is common in the universe, why don't we see any signs of it? But maybe the answer is, we are the sign. Maybe we are not waiting to find aliens. Maybe we are the legacy of aliens. This doesn't mean throwing out science. It means expanding it, allowing for the possibility that life's story is more complicated, more beautiful, and more cosmic than we imagined. At Infinity Beyond, we're not here to claim certainty. We're here to ignite imagination, to bridge the gap between science and wonder, to ask the bold questions and chase them wherever they lead. In the next segment, we'll explore what all of this means for our future. Because if intelligence can rise and fall and rise again, then the question becomes, can we break the cycle? Can humanity become the civilization that lasts? Or are we simply the next chapter waiting to be buried? Stay tuned and keep looking up. We're used to searching for history with shovels, trowels, and excavation sites. But what if the biggest secrets of the past are too small to see, hidden in molecules, atoms, and the very structure of matter? In this new age of discovery, scientists are going beyond the surface. They're putting ancient objects under powerful microscopes, performing chemical tests, scanning with lasers, and peeling back the layers of time, one electron at a time. And what they're finding might rewrite everything we thought we knew about Earth's forgotten past. Welcome to the frontier of technosignature detection. Not in deep space, but in deep time. Let's start with the basics. When scientists study ancient tools, pottery, or fossils, they often look for tool marks, residue, or traces of processing. But now, using scanning electron microscopes, mass spectrometry, and X-ray fluorescence, they can see beyond the obvious. They can detect traces of synthetic compounds, elements arranged in unnatural ratios, and even microstructural patterns that don't match any known natural process. In short, we're starting to look for signs of engineering, not just where. Consider this. If a civilization had existed 100 million years ago and had advanced technology, its remnants would likely not be recognizable to the naked eye, but they might still exist in the form of alloys, glass, or nanostructures embedded in rock or sediment. And these remnants might show characteristics that can't be explained by volcanoes, erosion, or natural chemistry. For instance, there are rare instances where scientists find metallic spheres with perfect symmetry in ancient rock layers, or zircon crystals that contain radioactive isotopes in non-random patterns, which suggest possible artificial manipulation. Even more intriguing, carbon nanotube-like structures have been discovered in some meteorite samples. While the current explanation is natural formation under high heat and pressure, the resemblance to human-made materials is uncanny. Could similar structures be hiding in Earth's crust, waiting to be noticed? But the hunt isn't just about materials. It's also about anomalous energy signatures. Some geologists have measured strange magnetic fields around certain ancient sites, fields that don't match local geology. Could these be remnants of lost power systems? Or are we simply misinterpreting the natural remnants of Earth's past? Here's where artificial intelligence becomes a game changer. New machine learning algorithms can scan terabytes of geological data, satellite images, or chemical databases, looking for patterns humans would miss. AI doesn't get tired. It doesn't carry assumptions. It just sees anomalies and flags them. Imagine training an AI to look for non-natural symmetry, repeating elemental distributions or unlikely combinations of materials in ancient rock samples. It could reveal entire layers of buried history we've overlooked for centuries. And some researchers are already doing this, quietly, cautiously, aware that challenging the timeline of human intelligence is controversial, even dangerous to academic careers. But as more data emerges, the silence is breaking. At Infinity Beyond, we believe these scientists are pioneers. They're asking not, "What is this rock?" but "What used to be here?" Not, "How old is this fossil?" but "What was it made with?" Because if there was a civilization before us, truly ancient, truly advanced, then the only place their legacy could hide is in plain sight, disguised by time and transformed by Earth itself. And maybe, just maybe, they left behind a message. Not a monument or artifact, but a pattern. Subtle, resilient, universal. Could that message be mathematical? Some scientists speculate that if an advanced species wanted to communicate across epochs, they would do so using prime numbers, golden ratios, or fractals, mathematics embedded into structures or encoded into materials that would last long after language and civilization were gone. Others propose the idea of crystal coding, data stored within crystalline lattices that could survive eons, waiting to be unlocked. It may sound like sci-fi, but modern research into quartz-based data storage is already proving how information can be embedded in glass-like structures for thousands of years. So the big question becomes, have we already found something like this, but dismissed it as just another weird mineral? It's not impossible. Because Earth doesn't just bury civilizations, it remixes them, transforms them, fossilizes them in forms we may not yet recognize. Which means the next breakthrough won't come from digging deeper, but from looking closer. In the next segment, we'll take this journey one step further, into the realm of consciousness. Could intelligence itself leave a detectable imprint across time and space? And is it possible that our own awareness is part of a much older network of thought? Because perhaps the final legacy of a lost civilization isn't material at all. Perhaps it's you. Stay tuned. If Earth has hosted advanced civilizations before us, one chilling possibility emerges. They didn't fade slowly into obscurity. They were wiped out in an instant. Throughout Earth's long history, there have been cataclysms, sudden, violent, global, asteroid strikes, supervolcanoes, cosmic radiation bursts, events so extreme they didn't just end species, they reset the entire planet. Could such an event have destroyed a civilization we never knew existed? Let's start with the Chicxulub impact, the asteroid that ended the reign of the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. It struck the Yucatan Peninsula with the force of over 10 billion Hiroshima bombs. Fires swept the globe. Ash choked the skies. Temperatures plummeted. Life changed overnight. Now imagine if a civilization had existed then. It would have been erased. Its cities reduced to slag. Its technology turned to vapor. In just hours, all traces would have been scattered or buried. Time would move on, and Earth would heal, leaving behind nothing but a mysterious boundary layer in the rocks. And we found that layer, a thin band of iridium, an element rare on Earth but common in asteroids, marking the moment that life nearly ended. But here's the twist. Not all extinction events leave behind obvious evidence. Some unfold quietly, slow, chaotic collapses triggered by climate instability, ecological collapse, or atmospheric poisoning. And some may not be natural at all. Let's take a bold step. What if one of these extinction events was not caused by nature, but by civilization? If an ancient industrial society existed, it might have created its own demise, just as we now face the consequences of greenhouse gases, deforestation, and pollution. Their legacy might be an unexplained carbon spike, a sudden warming event, a chemical anomaly in the sediment record, and maybe we've already found such markers. The Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, PETM, is a prime candidate. Around 56 million years ago, Earth experienced a sudden surge in global temperatures. 5 to 8 degrees Celsius rise across the planet. Oceans acidified. Species vanished. The cause? Still debated. Volcanic activity? Methane release? Or something else? Could that something else be the remnants of a forgotten industrial age? It sounds extraordinary, but that's because we're still wired to believe we are the first. And when you believe you're the first, you stop looking for predecessors. But Earth doesn't lie, it just hides. And now, using isotope analysis, sediment core drilling, and microchemical surveys, scientists are uncovering evidence of abrupt environmental change. Some of it disturbingly familiar. Acid rain, carbon overload, ozone depletion, plastics, synthetic compounds, and radioactive isotopes. We're already leaving a fingerprint on Earth that will last millions of years. So the question is, have others left the same fingerprint before us? Let's suppose they did. What would we see? We'd find layers of sudden climate chaos, unnatural chemical ratios, possible hints of high-temperature processes. We might even detect materials like glass spherules formed by extreme heat, not from volcanoes or impacts, but from massive infrastructure collapse or weaponization. If that happened, then we aren't just looking at natural history. We're looking at a civilization that didn't survive its own power. It's a sobering mirror, because right now, humanity is walking a similar path. We burn fuel, we heat the skies, we change the chemistry of the oceans, and we do it all while assuming we are unique. But if we're not, if others came before and fell the same way, then this isn't just science, it's a warning. We might already be repeating the same mistakes. At Infinity Beyond, we believe history is more than a timeline. It's a cycle, a pulse, a rhythm echoing across millions of years. And in those echoes, we may find the truth. That intelligence alone is not enough. That technology, without wisdom, leads not to ascension, but to annihilation. So where does that leave us? With a choice. We can continue forward blindly, pretending we are the pinnacle. Or we can look beneath the surface, literally and figuratively, and listen to what the rocks are whispering. Because buried in Earth's ancient scars may be the final message from a civilization we never knew existed. We were here. We reached far. We burned too bright, and we fell. The question is, will we do the same? In the next segment, we'll step away from the ashes and look to the stars, because while the past may warn us, it may also guide us. Could understanding the fate of ancient civilizations prepare us to become the first to break the cycle and reach the stars without falling? Stay with us. For centuries, we've uncovered ruins, massive temples, sunken cities, cryptic carvings, each isolated by geography and culture. But what if they're not isolated at all? What if the scattered remnants of the past form a map, a network, etched across continents, bound not by coincidence, but by intention? In this segment, we explore a radical hypothesis that ancient structures, separated by oceans and millennia, may be connected by design, a global blueprint from a civilization we've long forgotten. Let's start with what we see. From the pyramids of Giza to the stepped temples of Teotihuacan, from Angkor Wat in Cambodia to Stonehenge in England, massive megalithic sites share uncanny similarities. Astronomical alignments, mathematical proportions, sacred geometry, and perhaps most astonishing of all, placement. Many of these sites align along what some researchers call the Great Circle, an imaginary line around Earth that links many of the world's most mysterious monuments. The Great Pyramid, Nazca Lines, Easter Island, Mohenjo-Daro, and more all fall along this ancient geodetic path. Coincidence? Maybe, but the odds shrink with every additional data point. This theory suggests that these sites were not placed randomly, but as part of a unified planetary system. a system that could involve navigation, energy flow, or even communication. If true, this implies a global knowledge base, one that predates the cultures we credit with constructing these monuments. It suggests that someone, or something, once had a sophisticated understanding of Earth's shape, dimensions, and energy patterns. Mainstream archaeology often explains these alignments as cultural convergence or natural geometry. But if these sites are truly aligned across thousands of miles with high precision, especially in times before GPS, maps, or even known sea travel, it demands we ask, who connected them, and how? This is where emerging technology begins to change the game. Using satellite imagery, LiDAR, and 3D terrain analysis, researchers are now building planetary-scale maps that reveal patterns invisible from the ground. They're identifying roads, mounds, and structures beneath forest canopies and desert sands, many of which extend toward known ancient cities. A clearer picture is emerging. Ancient Earth may have been more interconnected than we've ever imagined. And here's where it gets stranger. Many of these sites are constructed using mathematical constants, P, pH, the golden ratio, and sacred harmonic frequencies. They encode celestial mechanics, equinoxes, solstices, lunar cycles, and planetary orbits. The implication? These weren't just temples. They were machines of knowledge, calendars, observatories, calculators. But who needed to measure time on a planetary scale 10,000 years ago? What culture had the stability and curiosity to construct such a web? Some propose these were remnants of a lost golden age, a prehistoric civilization that reached a level of global awareness and cooperation before falling into myth. Others suggest something even bolder, that knowledge was inherited, passed down from an earlier age of humanity, or from visitors not of this world. Regardless of origin, the result is the same. Earth's sacred sites may be whispers of a vanished intelligence, trying to communicate across epochs. Not with words, but with patterns, structures, and geometry. Consider the precision of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its sides align almost perfectly with true north, and its dimensions encode the radius of Earth and the speed of light. Or Teotihuacan, laid out as a scale model of the solar system. Or Angkor Wat, reflecting the movement of the Draco constellation over thousands of years. Who were these architects of deep time? And what were they trying to preserve? Some researchers believe these ancient engineers knew that catastrophe was inevitable, that climate, war, or cosmic impact would one day erase their world. So they embedded knowledge in indestructible architecture, placed it where future civilizations could rediscover it, if they knew how to look. And that's the key. We've had the data for decades, but only now, with modern tools and open minds, are we beginning to connect the dots. To see Earth not as a patchwork of ancient ruins, but as a single canvas, painted by hands far older than our history books acknowledge. At infinity beyond, we believe the implications are profound. If this network exists, then we are the inheritors of a planet-wide intelligence, and perhaps its final stewards. The message is clear. The ancients weren't just building for beauty. They were transmitting knowledge, coded in stone, aligned with the stars, waiting patiently for us to understand. In the next several segment, we'll explore what that knowledge might be. Could it include warnings, star maps, or even instructions for surviving the next reset? Because if the past was trying to prepare us for the future, it's time we listened. Sometimes the truth isn't buried deep underground. It isn't locked in a vault or lost in translation. Sometimes it's right in front of us, hiding in the open, masked by our own assumptions. And the most dangerous assumption of all? That we know what to look for. What if we've walked past evidence of ancient intelligence hundreds of times without realizing it? What if we've dismissed anomalies as accidents, misread patterns as coincidence, or labeled the extraordinary as mere myth. This is the heart of segment 14, the idea that recognizing evidence is harder than finding it. Imagine standing in front of a seemingly natural formation, a strangely symmetrical hill, an oddly aligned group of stones, a carved surface so eroded it looks like wind-blown rock. Unless you're trained to see differently, you'll probably walk away. But shift your perspective just a little, and suddenly the landscape transforms. Lines become geometry, shadows reveal structure, chaos becomes code. This concept is called perceptual bias, and it's the invisible wall between discovery and dismissal. We're not wired to see deep time. We're wired to notice change over seconds, minutes, or years, not over millennia. So when we look at a mountain, we don't ask, could this be artificial? When we find a metal sphere embedded in ancient rock, we assume it's natural. When we hear ancient myths about gods descending from the sky, we call them stories. But what if the stories are memories? What if some formations aren't geological, but technological ruins, camouflaged by time? We're already familiar with examples of this happening in our own world. Entire cities have been rediscovered after being mistaken for hills, mounds, or forested ridges. In Cambodia, LiDAR revealed the ancient city of Mahendra Parvata beneath dense jungle. Its roads, canals, and temples hidden in plain sight for centuries. What else might be out there? Let's take it further. If an advanced civilization truly existed millions of years ago, it's likely that time has warped, buried, and mutated its remnants beyond recognition. Concrete turns to stone. Metal oxidizes into soil. Plastics degrade into polymers that look organic. The deeper we go, the more Earth turns the artificial into the natural, but not perfectly. Small deviations remain, slightly anomalous shapes, irregular alignments, material combinations that shouldn't exist. These are the clues, the subtle signals, and that's where pattern recognition becomes the key. We're now using artificial intelligence to analyze satellite imagery, 3D scans, and geophysical data to find non-random clusters of anomalies. AI doesn't carry our assumptions. It simply sees what's there and flags the unexpected. What's been discovered? Grids beneath desert sand, circular structures under lakes, linear formations in forest floors too straight to be natural. None of them are definitive, but together they form a puzzle, a whisper of forgotten design. And design, no matter how eroded, leaves traces. At the atomic level, we now have tools to scan rock samples for engineered patterns, crystalline alignments that defy known natural processes, isotopic signatures inconsistent with volcanic origin, chemical residues that suggest high-temperature industrial activity. Again, individually, they're anomalies. But collectively, they start to tell a story. It's like finding letters carved into scattered stones. One stone tells you nothing, but arrange enough of them, and you see words. And maybe those words are a warning, because if another civilization once walked this earth and fell, if they left us a breadcrumb trail across time, they may not be inviting us to marvel at their greatness. They may be pleading with us not to repeat their fate. So how do we avoid missing their message? By changing the way we look. We need scientists and explorers who are willing to question established narratives, artists and architects who can interpret geometry as language, philosophers and physicists who are comfortable in the unknown. We need to stop looking for evidence of civilization and start looking for evidence of intelligence. Because intelligence may not leave behind cities. It may leave behind ideas, alignments, ratios, concepts encoded into the design of sacred spaces. It may hide in frequency, vibration, or energy patterns, and most of all, it may hide in us. Some speculate that ancient knowledge was encoded in culture, myth, or even biology, that the urge to build, to measure the stars, to seek patterns in nature, these aren't just instincts, they're inherited signals, echoes from before. If true, then perhaps the greatest evidence of ancient intelligence isn't buried at all. It's in the way we think, the way we wonder, the very questions we ask. At Infinity Beyond, we believe that asking bold questions is how discovery begins. And in the subtle, in the strange, in the nearly invisible, we may find the key that turns anomaly into answer. In the next segment, we'll explore the possibility that not all of this is behind us, that some knowledge, some presence may still linger. Because if a civilization was wise enough to survive itself, it may still be watching. And if we're wise enough to listen, we may finally hear them. If you wanted to send a message across millions of years, beyond language, beyond civilization, beyond memory, where would you put it? Stone erodes, paper burns, technology becomes obsolete, but matter, at the atomic level, lasts. So here's a radical idea. What if an ancient civilization, knowing it would vanish, encoded its knowledge into the fundamental building blocks of reality? We're talking about messages embedded in atomic structures, in crystal lattices, in the quantum arrangement of matter itself, not carved on monuments or buried in scrolls, but written in the architecture of existence, waiting for another intelligent species to evolve the tools to see it. It may sound like science fiction, but it's based on real science. In recent years, researchers have begun exploring data storage in materials like DNA, crystals, and quantum dots. These systems can store vast amounts of information in tiny, stable formats, far more compact and durable than any hard drive. So if we can do it now, what could a civilization 1,000,000 years older than ours have achieved? Let's look at crystal encoding. Crystals grow in consistent, repeating patterns, but those patterns can be manipulated, tweaked during formation to create specific atomic arrangements, like microscopic barcodes. These modifications would be invisible to the naked eye, indistinguishable from natural formation, unless examined at a quantum level. If a civilization wanted to hide a message that would survive asteroid impacts, floods, and tectonic upheaval, they might encode it in something like quartz or zircon. Interestingly, we already use these materials to date geological events. Zircon crystals, for example, can survive for billions of years and preserve isotopic information like a time capsule. But what if their structure held more than just age? What if they held knowledge? The implications are staggering. We might already have artifacts, misclassified as natural minerals, in our museums, labs, or even desk drawers. Items that seem ordinary, but that, under the right magnification or frequency scan, would reveal complexity too ordered to be chance. Some physicists propose that prime numbers, fractal geometry, or even mathematical constants could be embedded into these materials as a kind of universal code, recognizable to any intelligent species, no matter their language or biology. Because math is the only truly universal language. This isn't just theoretical. Researchers have already stored digital images, books, and even music inside DNA strands, a technology that could outlast the human race by millennia. And in the field of spintronics, scientists are experimenting with encoding information in the spin state of electrons, quantum-level data storage that could survive cosmic time. Now imagine a civilization that reached this level long before us. A civilization that foresaw its collapse and took action. A civilization that didn't build monuments to be remembered, but whispered their wisdom into matter itself. And we may be walking past their message every day. Of course, the challenge is recognizing what to look for. Nature produces order. Minerals can form perfect symmetry. Fractals exist in trees and snowflakes. But nature has limits. Intentional encoding leaves patterns that nature wouldn't create by chance. That's where pattern recognition and machine learning come in. We now have AI models that can scan data sets of crystal structures and flag anomalies, symmetries that seem too perfect, variations that deviate from geological norms. In several cases, these models have detected outlier formations, structures that may warrant further investigation. And maybe we're on the verge of discovery. But why would someone go to such lengths? Because time erases everything else. If your goal is to send a message to a civilization that might emerge millions of years after yours falls, you need a medium that will survive everything: heat, pressure, erosion, extinction. Matter is the message. And what might that message say? It might not be a warning. It might be a gift, a blueprint, a theorem, a guide, a story, perhaps even a way to avoid repeating the same mistakes. Or perhaps the message isn't even for us. Perhaps it was meant for someone else entirely, another species, another world, and we just happen to intercept it. That possibility reframes everything. It means we're not just the explorers, we might be the eavesdroppers. And in that accidental act of discovery, we might uncover the most profound truth of all: that the universe has memory, that civilizations, though mortal, can become immortal through message, that we too can encode our story, not just in books and digital clouds, but in quartz veins and atomic spirals, for eyes that have not yet opened. At Infinity Beyond, we believe the future of archaeology is not just about digging deeper, but seeing smaller, looking closer, and thinking bigger. Because the ultimate Rosetta Stone might not be written in symbols. It might be embedded in silence, in symmetry, in the perfect lattice of a forgotten crystal. In the next segment, we ask the final question: if we are not the first, will we be the last? Stay curious, stay awake. If Earth has already hosted intelligent life before us, if other civilizations have risen and fallen, their stories erased by time, then one question looms over everything we've discovered so far. Are we next? Or, more urgently, can we break the cycle? We often imagine ourselves as the pinnacle of evolution, the masters of Earth. But viewed through the lens of deep time, we're just the latest experiment in consciousness, walking a path already traveled, and perhaps already failed. We've built monuments, mapped the stars, unlocked the atom, and extended our reach into space. But we've also altered the climate, depleted resources, and built systems that rely on infinite growth in a finite world. In short, we've reached a familiar crossroad, the same crossroad that may have faced any civilization before us. So let's imagine this from a higher perspective. Let's step outside our era and view humanity like a layer in the rock record, a flash of activity, a strange chemical spike, a burst of radio waves, and then silence. That's how we'd look from the future if we fall. But what if we don't? What if we become the first civilization in Earth's long story to survive itself? That possibility requires us to learn, not just from science, but from warning signs already embedded in nature, myth, and matter. Signs that suggest intelligence alone isn't enough. Survival takes more than invention. It takes wisdom. And wisdom comes from perspective. We now know that Earth has suffered at least 5 mass extinctions, and each time, it reset the biological clock. Yet life always returned, different, stronger, more complex. Could intelligence do the same? Could it be that consciousness is not linear, but cyclical? Rising, collapsing, rising again? If so, then we may be the 6th attempt, or the 60th. And our legacy will depend on whether we learn from the patterns or ignore them. What would breaking the cycle look like? It wouldn't be just surviving the next century. It would be designing systems that heal the Earth. Technologies that don't just avoid harm, but regenerate ecosystems. cultures that value sustainability over profit, education systems that prioritize future generations over short-term gains. And it would mean becoming a civilization that looks beyond itself, toward the stars, yes, but also back into deep time, searching not for glory but for guidance. Because if there were those who came before, we owe it to them to not repeat their ending. And if there were none, then we carry the burden of being the first flame in a dark universe, a flame that must not go out. This is where science meets soul. At the cutting edge of astrophysics, we're beginning to understand how rare Earth's conditions are, how delicate the balance, how unlikely the convergence that gave rise to thinking life. And yet, here we are. That rarity means responsibility. Because if we are the only ones, if there are no ancient architects, no star ancestors, no encoded messages in the rocks, then this is all the more precious and all the more fragile. So what does the future look like if we succeed? It looks like Earth restored, technology in harmony with biology, space travel not as escape, but as exploration with humility. It looks like monuments not of stone but of thought, data embedded in stable matter, stories encoded in resilient networks, not for us, but for the ones who come after. Because one day, someone will ask of us what we now ask of those who might have come before. Who were they? What did they value? And what did they leave behind? Let's make sure the answers are worthy. At Infinity Beyond, we believe our story is still being written, that the legacy of humanity can be more than just a chemical scar in a sediment layer, that we can choose to become the first civilization to echo forward, not fade backward. We are not destined to repeat the past, but we must first see it, understand it, and then surpass it. In our final segment, we'll take everything we've uncovered, the myths, the science, the anomalies, and ask the most important question of all: what do we do now? Because the truth may not lie buried in ancient ruins, but in the decisions we make today. Stay with us. Over the past 16 segments, we've explored a mystery that stretches across time and space. We've asked bold questions. Did intelligence arise before us? Were ancient civilizations more advanced than we believe? Are there signs, hidden in stone, stars, and atoms, that tell a story we've forgotten? But now, at the edge of that great inquiry, we arrive at something even more powerful than discovery. We arrive at responsibility, because whether or not others came before us, we are here now. And that makes our choices matter more than ever. Humanity has built pyramids and particle accelerators. We've journeyed to the moon and decoded the genome. We've stood shoulder to shoulder, and at times, against each other, on the edge of progress and destruction. And yet, through all of it, we've carried something unique: the capacity to imagine more. It's that imagination that led us to question our origins, to stare at ancient ruins and wonder, who built this? Why does it align with the stars? What are we missing? But maybe the greatest question isn't about what lies beneath us. It's about what lies ahead. Because now we hold in our hands the power that may have doomed others, and the potential to become something no other civilization has ever achieved, a civilization that survives its awakening. If there were others before us, let us honor them, not with blind belief, but with careful thought. Let us learn from their silence. If there were none, let us become the first to echo forward through time. That means shifting how we build, how we teach, how we dream. It means encoding our knowledge not just in data, but in meaning. Preserving not just our names, but our values. It means building monuments not of ego, but of wisdom, designed to outlast the elements and speak across millennia. Imagine a future where someone stands where you are now, hundreds of thousands of years from today, and asks, who were these people? Did they care? Did they leave us anything that matters? Let's make sure the answer is yes. Let's leave behind more than carbon traces and scattered satellites. Let's leave behind a message, clear, intentional, and enduring. We saw, we knew, we tried, we changed. Because the true measure of a civilization isn't what it builds in stone, but what it builds in consciousness. At Infinity Beyond, we believe this moment, right now, is the pivot point. This is the chapter that future eyes will read. This is the sediment layer that will carry our signal, or our silence. So what will it say? Let it say we remembered the stars. Let it say we respected the earth. Let it say we reached for something greater, not just above us, but within us. Let it say we were not the last. Let it say we were the first to truly understand what it means to endure. Thank you for joining us on this journey through lost worlds, possible pasts, and imagined futures. But this isn't the end. It's the beginning, because the most important discoveries are still waiting to be made.